Broadcasting live from a field in Johannesburg, it's Geek Salad's Retro Record Reviews from the Geek Salad Podcast. I'm Andy.
I'm Todd.
And we are but two talking you two tonight as some stuff came up with Joe and with Jim, so they are not joining us. But we would be remiss if we weren't concluding our conversation about the music of 1991 with our concluding podcast coming out tomorrow on the records. We are talking tonight about 1991's U2 album Achtung Baby.
Achtung Baby.
Nice. So anyway,
yeah.
Let's first off, before we begin, Todd and I had a little bit of a momentous weekend last weekend. We actually went record shopping.
Andy left the house for the first time in a year.
It feels like it. I mean, I've done errands and I crossed state lines to get liquor. But other than that, I've really not done much in the last year. You know, like we went on a vacation with, onto the Cape, but it wasn't as much fun, because you couldn't really do a whole hell of a lot. So, So, Todd and I went to Joe's albums in Worcester, Massachusetts, and I don't remember how much of what did you end up picking up from there?
I didn't get a whole lot from Joe because I go there pretty much every other week and something up. And but I did Joe. So Joe's a really great guy. I've been going to his shop for the past 9-10 years. I helped him move to his current location, and he paid us in pizza and beer, which was great. And every time I go in, I try to find something new that I wouldn't normally listen to, and I take recommendations from Joe himself because he kind of knows what I'm into.
Yeah,
he's got a really great partnership with or distribution partnership with Coal Mine Records out of Cleveland, and they're a soul label. And anytime there's a new Coal Mine release, Joe is sure to have it. And I picked that up the other day. It's called Black Market Brass.
Nice.
I recommend it. It is super fun and super soulful and just kind of an Afro pop kind of funky brass flavor. So it's really cool. I also got an IRS Records compilation from 1980 featuring Oingo Boingo and the Stranglers. And
ooh,
that was you didn't see that. I picked that up and I kept that for myself.
You bastard.
I know, it was really good. I'll let you borrow it because
I would love that. Yeah,
okay, yeah. Wonderful. And what did you find, Andy?
Oh my goodness, I had the haul. It's been forever since I've actually gone record shopping, so I got quite a bit. So in terms of albums, I got Metallica's "And Justice for All."
Darkness imprisoning me.
Actually, yeah, this. It's been a while since I've actually listened to this album without it being part of a Metallica shuffle on Spotify. And this is my favorite Metallica album. In fact, one of my coworkers on our Monday call, I was like, we're waiting for my boss to get set up, and I'm like, Rashav, I'd be remiss if I didn't show you this. He's like, oh, you bastard. So nice. I got that.
Nice.
I also got this little two-disc beauty right here. That's the Foo Fighters.
Beautiful. Does it have the raised rivets on the front?
It does. Oh, it feels so nice. Yeah.
It's a great set. It's a really great set. I think I got that on Amazon for $14. It was a ridiculous deal.
Yeah. So. Yeah. I also picked up Dreaming of Blue Turtles by Sting.
We're blue turtling. Nice.
Yeah, which actually made up for some bad news I got. I ordered Sting's Bring On the Night live album from 1985 through eBay. And after I just got home from our trip to Joe's, and I got a notice that it was canceled.
From a seller on eBay, like a record
seller? Yeah, my order was canceled. Fortunately, I got my money back, but I was so pissed. So I got to try to find that again.
Good. That's no good. But at least he didn't have what Joe experienced with his Clapton album and just packing tape on the sleeve, which is always a bad idea.
Yeah, and that was his first new purchase. That was his first purchase.
I hope it didn't turn him off of record collecting.
It didn't. Did you see he bought records?
He got Layla.
Yeah.
Did he not?
Huh?
He got Layla.
Yeah, he did. He got Layla. Good. Derek and the Dominoes.
And then Jim actually got this album right here, Duran Jones and the Indications, which is another soul. It's not on Coal Mine. It's on Dead Oceans, but still high quality pressing. Great band. I would recommend them highly. Nice. He also got London Calling, from the Clash, which I'm sure next time, if they want to talk about it, we can certainly do that.
Yeah, I spoke to Jim today, and he was just like, it's been a good week. I didn't buy any records this week. So
I can't say the same.
I did get 2 other used albums though at Joe's. So this is a band called Sparks, which it's been like my new rabbit hole band. It's just these 2 gentlemen here, Ron and Russell Mael, and they're like an American art pop band that is like, they're huge in Europe. Not even like England. They're huge in just Europe. And I kind of found out about them. And I'm actually going to discuss this more on our next podcast, because we're going to be talking like little bites of popcorn in terms of things that we really like that wouldn't take up a whole episode. And I'm going to talk about Sparks because I friggin' love this band now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I checked them out that day, and I like some of the earlier stuff better, a little more rock influence than the kind of electronic stuff.
Actually, what's funny is a lot of their older stuff sounds like older Split Enz.
Mm-hmm.
If you've ever listened to old Split Enz.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and we get some reminiscence here from our friend Kurt Smith. Man, now I'm really missing going to the record store.
Kurt, come on.
Closer, man. If you lived closer.
Kurt, I'm sure you can find plenty where you live.
I'm sure. And then finally, I picked this up for like $7. It's the Brimstone and Treacle soundtrack. So I was kind of on a bit of a Sting kick. I own this on cassette. And this is, I had forgotten how just messed up this album is in terms of its overall sound. I think you could find this stuff on Spotify if you're just looking for like a quick fix of it. But there's a lot of Sting. This is like Sting's first solo works pre-breaking up the Police. There's a really good Police song on here called I Burn For You. There's a really great Squeeze song on here, Up the Junction. And we got the Beat from the Go-Go's is on here too.
Nice.
So it's a nice little like, and it's just one of these things. This was like the one I wasn't expecting to find. It's like I was flipping through the soundtrack. I'm like, it's $7. I'd be a fool.
You can't beat that. You did put back the Cats soundtrack though. And
I did. I talked to my wife about that, and she was pretty much like,
yeah, we're good.
Probably the New York sound. It's probably the Broadway. It's not as good as the London. So you made the right decision.
Yeah. Well, it'll still be there next time you go.
I'm sure it will be. And so is that $35 Dune soundtrack, which is like...
Yeah, that'll be there.
It's just tearing me apart.
Yeah.
But
save your pennies next time. And, we got the official date for Record Store Day, June 12th this year, which is great that it's not in the middle of April when it's going to be freezing out.
Right.
Very excited about it. I hope that they should be releasing the list of releases soon. So that's cool. Fun.
This will be my first Record Store Day, so I'm really looking forward to that.
Welcome.
Yes. Yeah. So I did on Twitter, I took the liberty earlier today of putting a poll up. And my question was on Twitter, which is at Geek Salad Radio. In anticipation of tonight's retro record discussion, we asked you, what is U2's best album? So your choices were either The Joshua Tree, Achtung Baby, or Other, and then a comment below. 56% went with The Joshua Tree, 19% with Achtung Baby, and 25% went with Other. And only one person commented, and that is our co-host on the podcast, Mike, who mentioned All That You Can't Leave Behind. And for a moment, I had to stop and just make sure he wasn't messing with me, because as far as I was aware, because sometimes it's just hard enough to keep the album titles straight. I thought it was like that free album that from iTunes.
No, that would be Songs of Innocence, my friend, which is a really, really excellent album if you give it a chance.
That's the issue, is that you got to give it a chance, because for years working in wireless, we had people like begging me to remove it from their iTunes list. And it's like, at first glance, I'm going to have to go back and listen to it again, because I kind of felt like, well, yeah, it's awesome. You're getting a free album. It kind of feels like the Happy Meal version of a U2 album. It's not like this great, expansive U2 album. It's an album that U2 put out to kind of satisfy a contractual obligation. They gave it away. And it's just like, it's like that mini Buzz Lightyear as opposed to the full-size Buzz Lightyear.
Well, they gave it to Apple. Apple paid handsomely for that.
Oh, I don't doubt that they did.
Hundreds of millions, whatever they paid. They got compensated for that album.
Yeah.
And I fully understand not wanting an album of a band that not a whole lot of people like anymore to just show up in your iTunes and start playing when you connect to Bluetooth and all that kind of stuff. However, it's such a good album. It's really, really, really good. It has a lot of those early post-punk U2 influences. There's Joey Ramone on there, which some people find pretentious, but it rocks. And I've seen them 3 times.
Okay.
And one of them was that tour. That was my first U2 show. And they opened with The Miracle of Joey Ramone. And he had the big swinging light. And he whipped it around the arena. And they went into Out of Control and I Will Follow. Like it had that small club atmosphere. And give that album another try. You will not be disappointed. It has many layers.
I will definitely give that a try. Again,
terrible album cover, I will say.
It is a lousy album cover. And it was funny too, because when we were at Joe's, they were selling it for like $30. And I'm like, Apple giving this away for free.
Yeah.
Don't I have this?
You want it on wax, baby. You got to pay for it.
I have one on the wax.
I have that terrible album cover, white vinyl. And then I have a Record Store Day version, which is just the white sleeve, which was the original Apple iTunes cover. And it's got all the bonus tracks and everything. I love it.
Okay.
I'm a big U2 fan. What can I say?
Oh, that's good. That's good. I've seen them once, and I actually saw them on this tour that we're going to be talking about. Mm-hmm. Saw them at Fox. I believe it was Foxborough Stadium at the time. Still.
Zoo TV. What a set list. Really is.
Yeah, I don't remember the set list as much. I know that Primus opened up for them. So another band I've got under my belt.
So the question is, was it early 92 or was it kind of moving into the 93 area? Because they wrote Zooropa, excuse me.
Yeah.
Not Zootopia. They wrote Zooropa and released Zooropa in 93, and the second half of the Zoo TV tour was mostly the Zooropa kind of
it was the summer of 92.
All right.
So it was so I got it on that end. And yes, Kurt, Primus was a hell of an opening act. It's what all bass players strive to be.
Yes.
Either Flea or Les Claypool.
Yep. That's the one.
Yeah.
That must have been a great show.
It was. I remember it was the only concert I've ever been to with my sister. And my mother got us tickets. And it was a lot of fun. I had a great time at that show.
That's awesome. Awesome. I was really hoping that they were going to do a 30th anniversary tour of Achtung Baby the same way they did Joshua Tree. I saw that show at Gillette.
Yeah.
Oh, man. It was so good. They played songs they've never played before. Red Hill Mining Town, they played it. You know, when I saw them in 2018, they ended up playing Acrobat off of this, which they had never really played before.
Yeah.
And it was just this like groundswell from U2 fanatics. So it was great. Seen them 3 times. All 3 shows were amazing.
Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about Achtung Baby then. It's definitely a departure from what we probably were expecting from them, considering it's like you look at their early discography leading up to Joshua Tree. Every step of that makes sense. There's that. There's that Venn diagram that everything just kind of bleeds into the next one, and it makes sense. But then after Joshua Tree, it kind of bled into Rattle and Hum, which we both kind of mentioned is not a great album.
Right. It's not terrible. And
no.
The highs are very high. The lows are very, very low.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Play the blues. And and I don't think it's their fault, right? They had one of the biggest albums of the decade in Joshua Tree, coming off of Unforgettable Fire, which in itself is a huge album. War was a huge album. Like, they were the biggest band in the world, and they gave in to making Rattle and Hum this much bigger thing than I think they wanted it to. I don't think they were prepared to play arenas or stadiums rather instead of arenas, because they had this vision, but they didn't have the technology to put that vision forth yet.
Right.
So they had Rattle and Hum as like, okay, this is what we're all about. And you can see it in movie theaters, and you can have the big screen effect of what we're doing.
Yeah.
The problem with Rattle and Hum is that these four, as Adam Scott and Scott Aukerman would say, lovable lads from Liverpool. You should listen to that podcast. It's amazing. They were trying to be Americana, and it came off as disingenuous and pretentious.
Right.
Instead of wanting to honor Elvis and Muddy Waters and, you know, all of their influences that they claimed to have at the time. So they became the biggest band in the world and then became pretentious about it.
Yeah.
Which led to them dreaming it all up again and coming back with this, which blew everybody's mind.
This is the very definition of going back to formula. Let's take it all apart. Let's put it back together in a different form. Honestly, this is my favorite U2 album.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it takes all of the risks that it needed to take. Wildly successful album. You know, I mean, it's never, I hate to say nothing's going to hit the zenith of Joshua Tree.
Mm-hmm.
But this album it was refreshing too, because they seem to glom onto a lot of different styles of music very early in their popularity.
Yes.
The electronic sound. It's weird to say that in the span of 1 year, both U2 and Suzanne Vega put out electronic albums, and they're both actually fucking awesome albums.
Oh yeah,
they
absolutely.
both are.
Absolutely.
And I really love those.
Yeah. And this, you know, when they went to dream it all up again, I actually have a copy of the show. They call it the Depot show. I would say Depot, but
yeah,
it was a New Year's Eve show in 1988. I want to say 1980. Yeah. So Joshua Tree was 87. Rattle and Hum was 88. By the end of that year, they were like, we gotta go figure this out. They were going to break up. They were going to, you know, they came back and did Achtung Baby. So to dream it all up again, they went to Hansa Studios in Berlin and tried to get some of that Bowie Berlin work kind of magic that they wanted in that sound, and they really pulled it off on this one.
Right.
You know, even just from the first track, you get Zoo Station, like, just, oh man, like, you can't even,
out of the gates,
it blows your mind. And the
out of the gates
single for this album was The Fly.
Yeah.
Which is unlike anything they had ever done.
It was, exactly. It's funny because you mentioned that, because out of all of the released singles, it's the least U2 sounding of all of their released singles for this. I mean, One, Mysterious Ways, even better than The Real Thing, all sound like they came out of the U2 factory, just with a little extra production, a couple of layers of extra production on them.
Yep.
Did Daniel Lanois produce this one?
It was Eno with
Brian Eno. Okay.
Yeah. Eno had been with them for a while. So Steve Lillywhite did the first few, and then it was Eno and Lanois up until Songs of Innocence, and they just kind of let them do their thing. And I would highly recommend listening to that You Talking U2 to Me podcast, because while it's very rooted in improv comedy with those two, they talk about the music and they really dive into it, and it's great.
And if it's anything like their REM, you can skip the first half hour if you just want to listen to what they're talking about with the album,
or just get a chuckle and listen to it. It's fine.
I remember first listening to that, I'm like, when are they going to talk about the album? And I'm like, skip. It's a half hour in. Okay, we're finally talking about Murmur now. Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
they went to Berlin, which at this point was the wall had come down and the city was essentially in ruins, right? It was this bleak and just incredibly depressing place. And I'm thinking, like, why would you go there if you want to be creative at all? But it really sparked something in them to change their sound, which they desperately needed.
Yeah. I can't imagine a U2 30 years ago, 30 years from now, still trying to like pull out the Joshua Tree sound. Yeah, I think they did a great job of just kind of reinventing themselves. And you know, when we move forward with that, I honestly I think Zooropa is just there. It could have been released as an EP, and I feel it would have had a lot more staying power and a lot more success than ending up in the cutout bin of every used CD store, because there is not a lot of great stuff on there. The stuff that's good is really good.
Yeah, and I talked about this on the podcast specifically with you too, where this was the start of their, well, it was the back end of the first cycle for them. You had Untitled Fire, which has Pride on it, and just these big anthemic songs going into Joshua Tree, goes into Rattle and Hum, where you have, you know, those live versions with the gospel and the, you know, the priest, the Miami Vice blazer and the slick back hair, and he thought he was going to be a rock star, and then they said nope, we're going to change it up. Then they come out with this, and then Zooropa furthers this kind of electronic and industrial sound, and then you have pop in 1997, which takes it too far.
Yeah.
I love Achtung Baby. I think Zooropa is a fine album. Pop is, you know, it's not necessarily my favorite, but I've grown to really enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's that third in the succession of like, okay, we're beating a dead horse now, and we got to go change it up again. All You Can't Leave Behind, Dad Rock, 3-album cycle of that too. So they know what they want to do, and they do it until they're forced to change again.
Right. Which is really good considering the egos of people like Bono and The Edge to actually have to redo everything. I mean, for Christ's sakes, they did the Spider-Man musical. So,
yeah, they did. They're
responsible for that.
Oh boy. Ooh. Yeah.
So I went back today and I was listening to this. And it's like I can passively listen to everything except for The Fly, all of the other singles, the stuff that got released and get regular rotation, is very passive listening to me. And I don't know if it's just due to 30 years of them being 3 of their bigger hits.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like one, even better than The Real Thing in Mysterious Ways, just like in one ear, kind of out the other. And it's not a knock on that. Honestly, their best stuff on this album, you know, Zoo Station, The Fly, we mentioned those. Until the End of the World, in my opinion, maybe one of the U2's just best songs.
I would agree with that.
The last 15 minutes of this record are just some of the best 15 minutes of music laid down in history.
Ultraviolet, Acrobat, Love Is Blindness. You can't close an album on a higher and lower note, emotionally lower. Higher musically, artistically, lower emotionally.
Yeah.
It's, I don't know. I don't know how they did it. And you're absolutely right. You know, one had just kind of been a rock staple, right?
Yeah.
And if you didn't know it was U2, you still know the words to it.
Right.
Mysterious Ways feels the same, although I will say, having gone back to it and listening to it with a better set of headphones or on my stereo system, the bass in Mysterious Ways is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Adam Clayton just rocks that bass line in Mysterious Ways. And I think Adam Clayton's a really great bassist, but he relies on a lot of the same tricks.
Right.
You know, before this, you know, With or Without You, and then going forward, some of the same stuff too. But on Mysterious Ways, I think he really hits a high point. Yeah.
I actually went, because after Saturday, I went on to Ultimate Guitar Tabs, because I had spent like the ride home listening to Achtung Baby and just kind of skipping around to the stuff I really wanted to listen to. And I pulled up a couple of the bass tabs for that. And it's the Adam Clayton bass lines are so easy to play for someone like myself who's a beginner. Very easy to play. Same note, you know, for about 4 measures before you move up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, you know, I don't think you need to be Paul McCartney on bass to have a real impact. but
Right.
yeah, and he does. And when you see him play live, he's all over the place, and which is a good thing. But he and Larry Mullen really hold that beat together.
Oh yeah. Oh,
And let Edge do Edge things. You know, you can't do Edge things and you can't do Bono things without that foundation being there.
Exactly, and that's they're indispensable. You can't get rid of them. You know.
Yep. Because when you get rid of them, you end up with a Spider-Man musical. Don't do that again.
That's it. Don't do that, please.
Please.
Actors Equity wants you to stop, please.
Please stop. You're killing people. Don't do it. Small correction. This was Daniel Lanois and engineered by Flood. This was the first time they worked with Flood.
Oh, okay. So. I was going to say, because I really kind of felt like it sounded like Brian Eno because, just that.
Yeah, he played keyboards on this.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So, but Lanois learned from Eno, so it was like, it was a whole big thing.
Right. So what about you? What's your, what are some of your favorite tracks on this one?
Well, I love the radio hits. I would have to say Ultraviolet is probably my favorite song on this album. And they played it on the Joshua Tree tour, and they had their big LED screens behind them, and they made it a tribute to female artists all around the world. And it was so moving, so touching, and it brought new life to the song for me to go back and listen to and really listen closely to it. But Zoo Station, even better than The Real Thing. I also think Until the End of the World is an unbelievable song. When I saw them for the first leg of the Innocence and Experience tour, they had this big video board in the center of the arena, and it was kind of an alley, and they could actually go up inside the video board and play, and they had the lights shining through. It was kind of like a scrim. They had the lights shining through, and then they would interact with the the animations that would play on the screen. Very cool. If you ever have a chance to go check it out on YouTube, please do. But they played Until the End of the World as their set one closer, and it was unbelievable. And it was 28 years later, 27, 28 years later, and it sounded fresh and it sounded new in 2015, and it sounded as fresh in 2015 as it did in 1991. I'm sure I was only 6. Sorry, Andy.
Yeah, it was funny too, is that what brought that to my attention was I got the soundtrack to Until the End of the World first, before I got Achtung Baby. So, but I already heard the song, and I really loved the song. And if you're looking for a good soundtrack, that is a really good collection of songs. And it's almost all, it really is just all discards for the most part. REM has a song on there. It's a discard from Out of Time. So it's a phenomenal album, definitely worth checking it.
I believe you spoke about that on the podcast.
Catherine did.
That's right.
I was going to, and then Catherine brought it up. I'm like, yes, I got 15 others here.
Catherine, come on. I do remember that. That was my first introduction to you guys.
That's right. That's right.
Crazy.
So that is a great soundtrack. But and I love that song, and you're right. It holds up to this day. I mean, I haven't seen it perform live, but just to this day, it really holds up. I still kind of feel that energy. Same thing I feel with Ultraviolet. I feel like Ultraviolet, there is such energy, and there is joy in listening to that song. I remember they actually performed that back in 2008 on SNL. It was like their they showed up, and you mentioned the thing with like the lighting, like the light ball.
Yep.
Bono was messing around with that, and it was it's like I hadn't listened to the album in a long time at that point, and then coming back and listening to it, it's like, oh God, I forgot what a good song this was.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, these songs sound fresh and they have life to them, which is needed after kind of a lifeless Rattle and Hum.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Aside from Desire, I love that song.
Desire, I mean, you mentioned before, I mean, there is good on that album. Desire's a good song.
Angel of Harlem, great song.
Yeah, yeah. Why
Golf
can't I think of it? I think
not
it
so good.
closed out. I think it closed out the album, and it was a single.
Silver and Gold.
No.
Would
Why?
you like
Why
me to
aren't?
get? I can go get it.
You know what? I can pull up on. I have Spotify on my phone. I was bored
Gotcha.
up there.
Gotcha.
Just make
Yeah,
it easy for everybody.
Shout out to my friend Colleen, who has seen U2 probably, 10, 12 times at this point. Drove
Yeah.
to Bonnaroo to see U2. Also saw the Chili Peppers that year, and I got to hear all about it. It sounded amazing, and I'm very jealous. So Colleen is Team Fly for the most part. I hope I have that right, but
Yep. It's All I Want Is You.
yeah, great song.
Yeah.
Great song. But you got the Little Steven and Play the Blues, and you got Bullet the Blue Sky with the megaphone, and it's 100, 200,
Yeah.
part tight, that kind of stuff. And they just it's crazy to think that they went even more douchey with this album.
Yeah.
But it works. Like the irony is strong here with this album.
The irony of an Irish band going Eurotrash is fantastic.
Yeah, and Bono got to play the rock star, and he got to play McPhisto, and he got to do the things that people cringe now, but at the time, like, that must have been so cool. He got to play the Jim Morrison character that he always wanted to play that he could never do because they were so earnest with their first 5 albums. They were so earnest and so honest with their music that they couldn't do that. And now they come out with this album, and it's there. They have the ironies there, and they're not taking themselves so seriously, which I think helped prolong their career for sure.
Absolutely, yeah, no, absolutely. I think it definitely has. Yeah, I really love this album. As I mentioned earlier, I prefer this one over Joshua Tree. Not to say Joshua Tree is a bad album, but this one just has a lot of renewed energy in it, which is, to me, it can be very important when I'm listening to music, especially if I'm just kind of like, I just need to kind of fill that hole.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And, it's funny because Joshua Tree, I love Joshua Tree. I have the nice deluxe box set over here. It's like 10 LP box set, and it's amazing with the new, mixes and all the live stuff and all that kind of, all that good stuff. The first side of Joshua Tree, as we talked about with Nevermind last week and Rumors.
Every song
is a greatest hits banger, right? Side 2 falls a little flat for some people. I like side 2 better than side 1. So because I've heard those songs so much in my life, and I hadn't heard this album as much, and I think that's why I like it more today than I do Joshua Tree.
Yeah.
Because it's not as played out. 1, maybe, Mysterious Ways, maybe. But the tracks on there, they feel new to me, which is what I need.
And, the interesting thing with that, too, is that it does come down to, I mentioned it about, Joshua Tree is the zenith of their career. So when people, when U2 dies, the first thing people are going to be bringing up is Joshua Tree.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like there will always be this freshness and not like the steep expectations on Achtung Baby the same way that Joshua Tree, to a new listener who just might not get what they were trying to get at that point.
Right. So it's the peak of their career from an album perspective.
Yes.
I would argue that the peak of their career from a single perspective happens in 2000 with Beautiful Day. And then again in 2004 with Vertigo.
There's always going to be this. Every other album, there's usually that signature hit. So
yeah, but with their last 2 albums, they had some really, really great songs, but that radio airplay factor is not there anymore.
Right.
You're not going to have a hit single because who listens to the radio? Who listens to hits? And who buys tracks on iTunes anymore?
Right.
It doesn't happen.
There's no point. Yeah.
When Songs of Innocence came out and everybody had it for free, it was like, okay, what's the big single? What's the hit on this? There isn't, because that doesn't exist anymore. Same with Songs of Experience. There's no hit single on there. All of those are great, and there are some songs that are more radio friendly, but it doesn't exist anymore. So, for a band to have been together for 41 years, releasing albums for 41 years, and going through all these permutations from earnest post-punk band to the biggest band in the world to this electronic thing, dad rock, and whatever you want to call them now, they've made it work. And whether you like them or not, you can't deny that they've sold 100 million albums in their career.
Yeah, no, absolutely. They can't deny its success. So yeah, if you haven't listened to it in a while, people watching, do it. God's sakes, go listen to it.
Kurt, I'm looking at you. What do you think? I don't know. Yeah. Colleen was going to give me some. She's either going to join or give me some feedback to share. But it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
That's cool. That's cool. I know Kurt's down on this album, so he's probably up.
All right.
He's probably cool with this one. So yeah. So that kind of concludes our 91 chat. So I'm looking forward to seeing what we choose to do next week. Mm-hmm. We have a list. Todd put together the spreadsheet. So
we got the list. We got the list.
I kind of feel like we need to do something completely different.
So it's not white dudes talk about rock?
Well, it's going to be white dudes talk about rock anyway. Man, I'm more in. All right. I'm more into progressive rock. Okay.
So, Kurt, what do you want to hear? What do you want to hear us talk about?
I'm sure we've got something here. It depends on the type of prog rock, too, because, I don't know if you would consider, I love Rush. They're prog. I've heard Coheed and Cambria be referred to as prog before, and I'm not 100% sure if that is a Rush. Yes. Moving Pictures is in my list of 10 Desert Island albums.
There you go. Yeah, prog's one of those genres that I haven't really gotten into, so I'd love to talk about that.
Right. Again, it's progressive rock can be it's so many different things. And it can be, something is experimental. Coheed's good. Porcupine Tree is good prog metal band. Yep. I love Coheed and Cambria. So that is a band you should check out, Todd, if you haven't.
Okay. Very good. Very good.
In Keeping with Secrets is another one of those 10 Desert Island albums. So
okay.
I'm giving you music now.
We could do Desert Island. We could talk about our Desert Island albums.
We could. We did that. Oh God, when did we do that? 2013. Yeah, we did it. We did an episode. It was Jim, Mike, and I doing our 5 desert albums. Then we had our honorable mentions. I want to revisit that. I'll still talk about the same 5 desert island albums I will always talk about. But you, Catherine, Joe, you haven't been here, so you weren't there for that. So you guys got to join in on that. Especially because when we talk about 1992 next year, 2 of the albums released are in my 5 desert island albums. So I kind of wish it was next year for a number of reasons.
For many reasons, yeah.
For many reasons,
absolutely.
But maybe I'll be vaccinated by that point. Maybe I get to go travel somewhere.
Yeah.
So
We'll see.
Yeah. So anyway, Kurt, thanks for putting your stuff in the comments here. Always appreciate that. You got a lot of good stuff in here. Kind of want to go listen to some Rush now. I will check out Porcupine Tree, and if you want, I'm gonna throw a band out to you, Kurt. Check them out if you like Coheed, you might like them. It's a band called Runaway Cabaret. And the only reason I found out about this band is that I was actually training one of their members. He works for my company. So it was just like one of those things we were talking about. What do you do? Well, I used to be a professional musician. Oh, what was the album? It's here on Spotify. So
Ray, that's fun.
It is hilarious. But anyway, folks, thank you so much for joining us for Achtung Baby. Can't wait to hear what we talk about next week. So just so you are aware, Todd and I host a little podcast called Geek along with Mike and Jim and Joe and Catherine and special original recipe Mike as well. Tomorrow, Friday, we have our conclusion of our Music of 1991 discussion coming out, where we talk all about the albums. So Achtung Baby is mentioned. Nirvana is mentioned. Pearl Jam is mentioned. Whole lots of things are mentioned. It's pretty cool. So definitely check that out wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to follow us on the socials, we are most active on Twitter at Geek Salad Radio. We're also on Facebook at at Geek Salad Podcast. Check out our wares at Geek Salad Podcast on TeePublic. I just came up with a couple of new character designs for a couple of our hosts. So I got to figure out a way to integrate those into our logo, which will be really awesome. So you can check out our t-shirts and mugs and stuff there. And I think that is about it. Don't forget to give us a like, subscribe. And what do you think about Achtung Baby? Leave a polite comment below. And don't forget to share this video with your friends. If they're music fans, they might enjoy what we're bringing to the table here. So, Todd, thanks so much for joining.
Thank you, Andy. Good to see you.
Until next time, go forth, be nerdful, and Edge, play the blues.